Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. Joining me today on the podium, we have a few folks. We're here today to talk about the crisis that we are facing in this country, in this state, when it comes to mounting student debt. And I am really happy to be joined today by Vanessa John, who is a student, Amelia Mani and Tina Bizios, who are students, Nicola Foundas, another student you'll hear from, Rich Dubois, who is Deputy Director of the National Consumer Law Center, Toby Merrill, Director of the Project on Predatory Student Lending at Legal Services Center at Harvard Law School, and Ruthie Lieberman, Vice President of Public Policy for the Crittenden Women's Union. Thank you all for being here this morning. Right now, students and families across this country are facing a crisis: student loans and student loan debt. And today, we are announcing that this is a top priority for our office. From the time our children are small, we encourage them, we tell them that to succeed in life, college education is a key. Education is a path to economic mobility and opportunity. If they work hard, get good grades, and graduate, they'll be able to get a job, buy a home, raise a family, and live the American dream. But as we know, higher education is more expensive than ever, and those costs are only increasing. Families and students around this state and around this country are finding it harder and harder to go to college, to get an education, to finance that education. More families, we know, are relying on student loans to finance education. But so many of these students, so many of these families are having to make some really difficult choices, taking on second or third jobs to pay for these loans. Parents putting off retirement to make sure their kids have an education. Families opting not to fix the broken boiler or fix the car because they need to make a student loan payment. People who are trying to do the right thing by getting an education are now finding it impossible to get out from underneath overwhelming student loan debt. This isn't a problem limited to students who attend for-profit predatory schools. This is a problem that affects students and families across Massachusetts who attend all types of institutions. Federal student loan debt in this country has remarkably now surpassed $1 trillion. There is more student loan debt in this country than there is credit card debt in this country. 40 million Americans have outstanding student loans, and more than 7 million borrowers are in default. If you look at the charts to my right, you will see how federal loan dollars have increased significantly over recent years. You also see reflected in these charts how much student loan debt has grown and how many people are delinquent, are behind, or in default on student loans. The numbers are staggering, they are startling, and I believe that this student loan debt crisis has ramifications, deep ramifications, for the health and well-being of families, our communities, and indeed our economy. I predict that if we don't get a better handle on this, we will be facing a crisis that may be as significant as the crisis we saw with the home mortgage crisis. So we have been looking at this as an office, and here's what our investigation has uncovered to date. The companies that are supposed to help students with their loans aren't doing their jobs, aren't doing what they are supposed to. Federal loan servicers are failing to help students enter into affordable payment plans. Because these student loan servicers are failing and not doing what they are supposed to do to help students with their loans, a new cottage industry has crept into the market. These are companies that target vulnerable students and market themselves as being able to help students with their debt. We see this industry of so-called debt consolidation companies, debt relief companies that have sprung up, oftentimes pretending to be affiliated with the federal government and promising students that they will help them reduce their payments. The reality is, as we have heard from so many, that they are left with boatloads of additional fees and additional debt and are worse off from where they started. These companies charge students money for services that are actually available to them for free. They charge students money for services that are actually available to them for free, making money on the backs of vulnerable students and families in the process, and setting them further and further behind. Now, many students don't realize that they can apply for programs that will help them with their loans, and that these programs are available for free. By utilizing these companies, though, they're often slapped, as I said, with hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of additional fees and payments that are absolutely unnecessary, serve no purpose other than to make money for these companies. Today we are taking action. Today we are taking action by banning 2 of these companies from operating here in Massachusetts. And we are taking action to get money back from these companies to make these students whole, to make these borrowers whole who were taken advantage of by their practices. Based on our review, we allege that student loan processing and direct student aid charge illegal fees, engaged in aggressive marketing practices, and misled borrowers about their ability to arrange lower monthly payments. This money will go straight back to the students who were harmed. The companies will no longer be allowed to operate in Massachusetts. And we will be aggressive in looking at similar companies, loan servicers, and purported debt consolidators or debt relief companies that are out there doing a great disservice to students and families here in this state. Because when people can't afford to get out from under their debt, they can't go buy that home. They can't start a business. They can't support our family or contribute to our economy. It's bad for them, and it's bad for Massachusetts, and that is why we are taking action here today. These are so similar to some of the problems that we saw and some of the practices that we saw with the mortgage crisis. Families struggling to get by, servicers not doing their job, and scam artists stepping in to take advantage of vulnerable people. We also know here in this office that student borrowers and their families need help today. They can't wait for more litigation or settlements to occur to address their needs and help them with their debts. So in addition to going after these bad actors, we are setting up resources in our office to help borrowers who are struggling to repay their loans. I'm announcing today that we have created a student loan assistance unit dedicated to helping borrowers in need. Where the federal loan servicers have failed, this office is going to step up and step in to help students here in this state and their families. We have a dedicated hotline that can help borrowers get out of default, apply for more affordable repayment plans, and advocate for loan discharges when appropriate. The number to call is 1-888-830-6277, 1-888-830-MASS. We encourage students to call our hotline today. There will be resources available to work with you, to listen to you, and to try to help reduce your loan debt and make sure that you are able to take advantage of what is for free right now in terms of loan servicing options. We want to make sure that students in Massachusetts can get that education, can get that degree, and have the foundation to build a healthy, bright future for them and for their families. At this time, I'd like to turn the podium over to Vanessa John, who will tell us about her experience as a student borrower. Vanessa.
Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa John. I graduated from Emmanuel College with a BA in International Relations in 2011, and I thought I was going to change the world. But the world hit me when I had realized that I had a lot of loans to pay back, and I had to make choices. And being the first person to go to college for my family, fulfilling our American dream, as I am a Haitian-born and Boston-raised citizen of America, it was disheartening because I didn't know what to do. And in my moment of desperation, I called I saw an ad out for U.S. student loan processing. I called them in hopes to help to consolidate my federal loans, as is my dad's federal loans for my college education. And it turned into a nightmare, as now his wages are being garnished because there was a lack of communications between the loan processing center and U.S. State Department of Education. So now I have a creative debacle in which I have turned to or so thankful and grateful to the U.S. Attorney General for her help, and I hope that anyone who has the similar experiences come forward and share your experiences. I know that it may be embarrassing, but there's help out there, so come get it.
Thank you. Amelia and Tina, why don't you come forward?
Good morning, everyone. Talking in front of a mic is terrifying. I'm Amelia Manning. This is my mom, Tina. Being the daughter of a single mother, I know she's always wanted what is best for me. Fortunately, due to personal circumstances, we were unable to save money for college. Together, we took out more than $100,000 in student federal loans for my degree in biology that I split between Emmanuel College and Boston University, and am now getting my master's degree from Southern New Hampshire. It wasn't long before we were contacted by a student debt relief company that told us they were going to help us lower our payments and get rid of our student loans within 10 years. That obviously sounded amazing and something that I want to do in order to continue with my life and provide for myself, as well as help out my mom, who was always there for me. So of course, we were just looking to make things easier financially. So we signed up actually a year in September, back in 2014. We were required to put down a down payment of a few $100s, as well as sign up for their services and that we had to pay every month, as well as fees for their services. So after 4 months, we realized, after I called my loan company to sign up for grad school, that none of those payments were going towards my student loans. And I just haven't been paying them for the 6 months since I've graduated. They also asked to access our student loans and ended up going in and changing all of our information. They took out our phone numbers and our addresses and put in their phone numbers and addresses. So any communications were no longer coming to us. So if anything was happening, we weren't getting any information about it. We attempted to contact this debt relief company, and after many tries of phone calls and emails, we never got a response. And that's when actually our loan services told us to contact the Attorney General's office. And that's when we got in touch with somebody here, and they helped us work through. The company took about $1,500 from each of us, and here the Attorney General's office was able within 2 weeks to get us all of our money back. So I'm now working towards my master's in data analytics, and although student loans stink, at least I know that I'm paying them, and no one is taking my money besides me giving it out to who it's supposed to go to. So I'm definitely very grateful to the Attorney General's office for getting that situated, because I don't think my master's program would have been possible if it wasn't for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nicolette.
Hello. My name is Nicolette Fondas. Besides being a mom of 2 beautiful girls, I'm an educator from Belmont Public Schools who is still repaying my undergraduate loans. Since receiving my undergraduate degree from Assumption College, I have earned 2 masters, one in education from the University of New Haven, which was paid for through internships, and most recently a master's in organizational management from Endicott College, which my husband and I paid for out of pocket. I'm here today because approximately 2 years ago, while pursuing my second master's, I was caught off guard when I received notification from Sallie Mae that they had deferred my federal undergraduate loans per my request, a request that I did not make. At first, I was fearful of identity theft and was relieved when it wasn't. However, I was frustrated once I was informed from Sallie Mae that they deferred my loans on my behalf, which was warranted per a federal law. The decision they made without communicating any loan repayment options with me ensued many layers of difficulties while attempting to rectify this change. During this time, I was 8 months pregnant and working full-time. I did not need the stress of trying to fix this problem. I reached out to the Attorney General's office, which I'm fortunate enough to have worked with, and with their assistance, rectified this issue. They reached out to Sallie Mae, and as a result, they took the loans out of deferment, reinstated the interest rate reduction, and wrote off the interest that had accrued. As an educator, I work diligently to instill a love of learning in all of the students I have the privilege of teaching. My goal as an educator is that I can create lifelong learners in each of my students, as well as my own 2 daughters. I want them all to understand the value, the power of knowledge is. However, the problem myself and many others face is the duplicity of financial aid. My wish is by the time this young generation embarks on the exciting prospect of college, any challenges with loan servicers will be one of the past. We cannot allow financial institutions to make loan repayments inaccessible and should expect better business practices. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicola. Rich?
I'd like to thank the Attorney General for inviting me to speak with you here today. I'm Rich Dubois, Deputy Director of the National Consumer Law Center. The Consumer Law Center is a Boston-based nonprofit organization specializing in consumer financial issues, especially on behalf of low-income consumers. Our Student Loan Borrower Assistance Project provides information about student rights and responsibilities for borrowers and advocates, and provides direct legal representation to student loan borrowers. Most of the clients we represent are low-income people living here in Massachusetts. Education is a primary ticket to upward mobility in our society, and access to higher education is critical for our low-income clients. At the same time, student loan debt has tripled over the past decade, now coming second only to mortgage debt. And many low-income borrowers, especially the many who have attended for-profit schools, are saddled with student loan debt they cannot afford to repay and have suffered defaults, wage garnishments, tax offsets, and damaged credit. Unfortunately, the student loan servicing system has become so confusing that an entire industry of for-profit debt relief companies has sprung up to supposedly provide the services that the free government servicers are failing to provide. Borrowers run the risk of paying exorbitant fees to these companies and losing important rights in the process. A 2013 report issued by the National Consumer Law Center documented numerous problems with student loan debt relief companies. Among the companies we investigated, there was a shocking level of abusive and deceptive practices. Many provide consumers with inaccurate and misleading information, then take their money without providing any helpful services. Such practices exacerbate the pain of vulnerable consumers seeking to solve difficult student debt problems. There is clearly a tremendous need for consumers to have greater access to high-quality counseling services. Without help, struggling individuals and families are at risk of losing critical student loan protections and benefits, becoming victims of debt relief scams, and ultimately defaulting on their loans. Now, a lot of these issues are complex, including student loan repayment issues and finding options for consumers who've been victimized by abusive for-profit schools. For debt counseling to be most effective, we believe it should be delivered in partnership with civil legal aid organizations or conducted under the supervision of attorneys with expertise in student loan debt. NCLC continues to advocate for reforms to student loan servicing practices in order to stop harmful practices and to protect borrowers. Student loan servicers are the consumer's primary point of contact. If the servicer is competent and efficient, many financially distressed individuals will be able to avoid default. A major problem with the current system is that the student loan recipients do not receive consistent quality service. Too many consumers never obtain options that could relieve their debt burdens, help them get back on their feet, and provide financial security for their families. Once again, I'd like to thank the Attorney General for her commitment to this important issue for a growing number of people in the Commonwealth and across the country. Thank you very much for this opportunity to join you here today.
Morning, my name is Toby Merrill. I'm an attorney at the Legal Services Center of Harvard Law School, where I direct the Project on Predatory Student Lending. Every day we get calls from borrowers, their parents, their aunts and uncles, their nieces and nephews, their grandparents. All of them are struggling with loans they can't afford to repay. And because access to legal advice is so hard to come by. People essentially are unable to enforce their legal rights, so their legal rights disappear. So I'm incredibly grateful to the Attorney General's office for its work and to the Attorney General for her work in enforcing the rights of borrowers against scammers, against for-profit schools, against servicers that are not doing their jobs, against all of the different organizations that should be helping students and at best are ignoring them and at worst are cheating them. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruthie Lieberman, and I work for Crittenton Women's Union, which is a nonprofit organization that helps low-income women and families climb out of poverty. The majority of families that we work with are living in homeless shelters in Boston. They earn less than $10,000 a year, and most of them are headed up by single parents, primarily women. We are so excited about the news today because these families need legal assistance more than you can imagine. Many of them went to for-profit colleges trying to make a better life for themselves and their kids and to be the breadwinner and the role model that they wanted to be. And what they found out is that they were sold a bill of goods. Many of them didn't end up graduating because the school was not appropriate for them, and those that graduated never got jobs that allowed them to pay off their exorbitant student loans. What happens if you're living in a homeless shelter and you owe money on a student loan and you default on a student loan is that you can't even move out of a homeless shelter. The Attorney General was talking about families that have been prevented from buying homes or buying cars or starting businesses. Our clients are not able to rent an apartment because their credit has been destroyed. They've applied for jobs and they've been denied jobs because of their credit scores and they're unable to obtain employment. Once they get jobs, their wages are garnished. The problems just magnify. And as a result, we have hundreds of families that are living in homeless shelters across the state that could be doing so much more. We have partnered with many of the legal aid organizations up here, and they have helped hundreds of our families solve their problems. But as we've shared these stories around the state, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have had the same experience, including staff in my own organization, low-income hard workers who are just trying to move ahead. And we have been calling on more legal assistance to help these folks get out of this situation. We are so grateful to the announcement today, and I can assure you that as soon as this 1-800 number is up and running, many of our clients will be calling and seeking assistance. So we thank you so much, Attorney General, for taking this on.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to, in particular, thank the organizations represented here today for their continued advocacy on behalf of consumers. It is so important and it is so needed. And I want to thank the students for sharing their stories. This is what it's about. This is the impact. You know, in a few days, we're going to gather, many of us, with families, and there will be many students returning to kitchen tables and dining rooms around this state, gathering with families. And we do worry very much about their future, about their family's economic security. And this office has been an aggressive consumer advocate. As you know, we have taken strong action against predatory for-profit institutions that have preyed on some of our most vulnerable consumers, from low-income folks who qualify for federal aid to our service members and veterans who qualify for GI Bill funding. We have gone after those entities. We have shut down those entities. We have gotten some of those entities out of state and returned money to borrowers who were ripped off by those entities. And we will continue to be aggressive. But we are broadening the look today because student loans and student lending and student debt affect so many families across this state in really deep and profound ways. That's why we're taking action against these companies that are preying upon students who are in debt, these debt consolidators. That's why we're taking the action today, recovering money, returning that to borrowers. It's why we're going to be aggressive at looking at the whole system, those who originate the loans, those who service the loans, those who purport to help students deal with debt. because we need to come at this from all angles, and we will continue to be aggressive as we have been in the past with the United States and particularly the Department of Education. Right now, student loans are too expensive. Families can't afford education and college education, and we need to change that system for students here in Massachusetts and across this country. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions.